your hormones aren't balanced. And I say it too, but it does irk me when people are like, we need to balance your hormones. The thing with hormones is that they are always up and down. Like there is never a true balance that lasts for more than never. It's always up and down. And this is why measuring hormones is challenging, because you have to really be specific about, are you on birth control or are you not? Because if you are on birth control still, measuring your hormones is not going to give you an accurate description. It's just as going to tell you like what's going on with your body with your birth control, and doesn't give us an accurate representation of your body. So there's things that we need to know. Oh, first of all, I'm Katie. I'm a nurse practitioner. I'm a fertility consultant, and I help people get pregnant faster by figuring out what is actually going on with their body, what can they do to repair that, and how can we get you pregnant faster. So one thing that I see a lot kind of in social media is about, take this and it will balance your hormones. In what way? Okay, so like ask some questions, because hormones are fluid. Okay, they're always changing. And so a lot of times people are, looking into this and don't really understand what that means. So let's talk about it. So balanced hormones does not mean that every hormone is in the middle of a normal range. Hormones are intended to rise and fall. It's a communication system through your body, okay? And so we're going to see that estrogen and progesterone rise and fall based on the time of your cycle. We'll see that your LH is trying to rise, getting you ready for ovulation. And sometimes we'll see that it's trying and never really kind of takes off. And we'll also see just kind of some changes in how they fluctuate. Now, if your hormones did not fluctuate, you would not ovulate. This is a lot of similar sounding words, okay? If your hormones don't fluctuate, you'll never ovulate, okay? So that is why we need to know like cycle day. We need to know kind of when your tests are being drawn, etc. And what we're looking for is more so patterns than specific numbers. And sometimes people will get really want to get into the weeds in regards to like their number for progesterone. And it's not always about like a certain number. It's about the transition of that number. Okay, what are we seeing? How is it rising and falling? Where is it rising and falling within your cycle? And that's why I really like Mira, is because you can track and trend some of that. And so what we're looking for is the pattern, not the specific number. Okay, so a lot of times people think that abnormal things that a lot of times people think that like what's going on with them is abnormal, but it can be very normal. So certain examples would be like having symptoms for mild PMS, some fatigue before your period, some temporary bloating, and we're going to see some slight cycle to cycle variation. So normal doesn't mean that you are symptom free. We're usually going to notice, and a lot of people do notice that like on a certain part of their cycle, they feel a certain way. So what would actually suggest a hormone problem rather than a hormone imbalance, I think is a better term, would be irregular cycles. If your cycles are not consistently around the same amount of days each month. So you should be able to kind of look at a calendar and within a 1 to 2 day difference, be able to say like my period will start this day. And when we start seeing that those, you can't really predict it, or they're a little bit more inconsistent, that is a sign to me that we may have some sort of hormonal issue going on that needs to be repaired. Missing periods, so having anovulation, having cycles that we're not having periods, that needs to be looked into. Really severe PMS or PMD can be indications that some of our hormones are a little off and that they need to be adjusted, or something is going a little too far. Same things with infertility, getting difficult time getting pregnant. If you've been trying for a while and we're still not having a positive pregnancy test, that may be indicative that we need to better understand kind of your hormone cycles. Really heavy bleeding, persistent acne, excess facial hair. All of this tells me that we may have something hormonally going on. Additionally, recurrent miscarriage can be a sign of some sort of hormonal deficiency. Things aren't kind of working the way that they're supposed to. Unexplained weight gain or loss might be indicative that we've got some sort of hormonal issue. Low libido, hot flashes at a younger age if you're not menopausal. All of this needs to be assessed. And so this is kind of things that I would recommend that, when I'm doing is taking on a new client, these are things that I'm asking about specifically. But if you're noticing these, your OBGYN, PCP, midwife, etc., is probably not going to ask. So it might be worth going them with those specific symptoms so that they can better understand and work that up with you. Another big mistake, kind of like I mentioned, is that people are chasing a single hormone. They're like, oh, my estrogen is high. Oh, my progesterone is low. Oh, my testosterone is low. And the truth is that hormones are going to work as a team. It's like a symphony. You don't judge the orchestra based on one violin, okay? We're going to look at the bigger picture. And that's, I think, where sometimes people not necessarily get frustrated with me, but they want me to like dig in deeper to a specific number. And it's not about the numerical outcome for your progesterone. There is a component to that, but it's more of like a range and watching how things ebb and flow. And also we're checking your hormones and we're getting the results from a moment in time. And literally an hour later, it can be different. So that's why we don't want to get so hung up on the numbers. Now, if it's just like a flat line, yeah, we need to work this up a little bit more. But if we're seeing good pattern change, that's a great sign. Okay. So, when I'm working with a new client, I am very rarely just looking at their estrogen levels or progesterone levels. I am more concerned and find more value in understanding and evaluating your ovulation, your thyroid function, your insulin or your glucose levels, or both if you're working with me. Inflammation status. Do we have a lot of inflammation going on in the body? And if so, where is it coming from? And what are we going to do about it? Nutrient status. Are we deficient in certain things? Vitamin D is a huge one that I see a lot and needs to be addressed. Testosterone levels, DHEA levels, lifestyle factors. All of this is going to be more important to me than just a single lab value, because hormones are not going to operate in isolation. This is going to be, again, the influx and ups and downs of things. Another thing that's important to know is that a lot of things in our environment can impact hormone levels. So BPA is something that's found in plastics, and that it acts like an estrogen in the body. And so sometimes when we are seeing that people are having hormonal dysfunction, it can be related to external stimuli that are changing that kind of thermostat system. So if we think about your body being like a feedback system, what's happening is that we see an increase in one hormone, and that's going to signal to the rest of your body what is going on and what it needs to do. And so in the event that we have an estrogen, something is being interpreted as estrogen in the body, that can impact your complete hormone trajectory and how that cycle works, because your body's getting a falsified information. Okay. So when people are, like I used to be years ago now, like, oh, toxin stuff, that's not real. Like that's, it's just, I don't know what I thought, just fake news or stuff that I just didn't have time to really understand at that point. And now I realize how much of a big deal it actually is. This is why I drink out of stainless steel water bottles now as much as possible. This is why I've gotten rid of a lot of my kitchen products, is because I've realized that they are hormone and endocrine disruptors. Okay. So another thing is that labs aren't everything. I like labs. I am not all lab focused. I do like labs and corporate labs. All of my clients have labs, and different phases and different symptoms warrant different labs for sure. Okay. But I'm not just looking at your labs to understand, like, is your progesterone at the specific level that I want it to be? I'm looking at patterns. Are we seeing that your thyroid is starting to function better? Are we noticing that you're not losing as much hair? Are we noticing that you have more energy? Are we noticing that now you're ovulating and you weren't? Are we noticing that now your progesterone is actually starting to increase or incline after your cycle or after you've ovulated, confirming that your body is now doing what it's supposed to? So it's not like me being like, oh, good, on cycle day this, your progesterone was that. No, because that's not what I care about. I want to say, oh my gosh, yay, finally, we are seeing some changes in your cycle and in the way that things are presenting. So that is how I'm going to measure. So I've had clients that come in and their hormone levels are maybe completely normal despite having a 45-day cycle. Okay, that's not normal. Sometimes your labs are within normal limits. And sometimes with these things, there's a big chunk of that's considered within normal limits, and that often is not optimal. So a lot of times people are like, oh, they said that it was normal. It may be normal, but it's not optimal. We are looking at the generalized health when we are looking at labs of Americans and what is considered within normal limits. And that is not truly reflective of health. Okay. Yeah. It might be normal for Americans to have this level, but it doesn't mean that you're in a healthy range. So a lab value doesn't get you pregnant. A functioning reproductive system does get you pregnant. Okay. So, that's just something that I like people to kind of understand when we're working with each other. And if I'm not getting all worked up because your labs in like one reading are not, perfect, or they are, it just doesn't give me as much information as maybe we wish that it would. So if you're worried about your hormones, if you're trying to balance your hormones, please do not start with random supplements or peptides from TikTok. Start by understanding your system, your cycle, understanding what testing to do and what the right time is. So if you have ever had a confusing hormone reading, or you have questions about more specific, drop them down below. Would love to talk more or do another vlog about it so that you can better understand and we can dive into what that looks like. See you next time.